Welcome back. In this video, we're going to prepare our data class becoming an entity so that we can actually use it with our DAO and with the Room database. So it's quite simple. So you take the data class that you want as the object type that you want to store permanently on your device using the Room database. In our case, it was the data class wish, and you add the entity annotation to it, which comes from Android X Room. All right, now you need to say in which table you want to store that information. So here I'm going to say table name, and then we need to add a string. So I'm going to call this one wish table. All right, so the database will now have a table which then contains data about our wishes. Now we will create wishes, and every single wish will become a new row. And now we need to define the columns that we want to have inside of that database, inside of that table. Okay, so you have the level of the database in which you have tables, multiple tables. You can obviously also have just one table or no tables at all, then the database is empty. But you can have one table and multiple tables. In our case, we will have one table, which will be our wish table. And then in that table, you have columns, which will be the different properties of your data class. And then each entry of your table will be a new row. So we now need to say which one of those will be the primary key. Which one of those items here will be the primary key of those properties. Okay, and the primary key is important to understand that it is the one identifier that is unique. So unique to every single entry inside of that table, which means that if you look at a table, you need to know by that identifier, if you search for it, you need to only find one entry inside of that table. So you could say, yeah, let's just use the title or the description. The problem is if somebody enters the same title twice, then it will not be unique anymore. We will not know which one of those to read if we ever want to read and display certain wishes. Okay, which is why the ID is so useful. The ID is the primary key in our case. That's generally the case. You would always use an ID as a primary key because it's just a number and it increments automatically, or is being incremented by the Room database. Basically, automatically each time we create a new entry, we are increasing our ID by 1. And by doing so, we're making sure that no ID is used twice. Okay, so here let's use the add primary key annotation. And let's add this statement here. So auto generate true. This is what I was saying with it automatically incrementing it for us. We don't have to do that manually. And that happens because of us adding this line here saying auto generate equals true. So we start with 0, but the next time we create an entry of a wish inside of our table, wish table, this number will increment by 1. So it will go to 1. The next item that we will generate will be 2. The next after that will be 3, and so forth. And then even if we delete 1, 2, 3, the next item that we will ever create will automatically be with the or have the ID 4. Okay, so that's really important to understand here. Then I'm adding another annotation here for my column title. And here I can add something called column info. You see, it's also from Android X. So this column info is basically saying what is the name of the column. So how do you want the column to be named? And I'm going to call it wish title. Now we need to do the same thing with our description. And I'm going to call this one wish desk. Desk standing for description. Okay, it's not the desk that I'm having my computer on, for example, or sitting under. So now our table is pretty much ready. or our data class is pretty much ready to be used in a DAO, to be used to store data permanently. Okay, so let's quickly look at this item here, this spreadsheet. So the spreadsheet, if you compare that, this would be the database. Okay, the sheet itself, this would be the table. Okay, so this is our table that we will give the, or we would give the name, or will give the name, table name of wish table. Okay, so this would be, for example, my wish table. This will be the database that I use for my app. So this could be wish database, my wish app. Okay, now we have columns. So this will be column number 1, which will be ID. This will be column number 2, which in our case was wish title. And this will be column number 3, which will be wish description. So now every single entry will go in here. So let's say I have a new entry and the wish title was an iPhone, for example, even though no, actually let's not use iPhones. We're using Android here, right? And let's say a Honor Magic V2, which is an absolute beast of a smartphone, and a smartphone or a foldable smartphone that's absolutely insane. All right, so now we have the first entry. Now the next time we create a new entry, it will automatically get the ID of 2. So this one will be, let's say, a car, and then the description of the car, brand new Speedy Gonzalez car. All right, Speedy Gonzalez is probably only for the boomers out there. Will understand who Speedy Gonzalez is. Then the next one would be a house. All right, I wish for a house, and big ass house. Hose. Okay, big ass house. Quiet yet central area, something like that. Okay, now let's say I delete this entry here. So 3 will be deleted. So I create a new entry. This will still be number 4. So it will still increment by 1. Now this entry will be, let's say, e-bike. All right, and super fast e-bike with big or long range. Okay, so this just to give you an idea how all of this comes together. All right, how all of this is connected and, well, will basically be stored inside of the Room database for our particular application. So each application gets its own database, so to speak, right? And it has a bunch of different tables, so it can have a bunch of different tables that you want to store. So that's it for this video to give you a background. In the next one, we're going to set up the DAO. So see you there.